We live in this world where we're constantly connected, yet so many of us feel more alone than ever. It's a huge contradiction. So today, we're going to dive into the work of MIT's Sherry Turkle, who has spent years researching this very paradox, how our devices, which promise to bring us closer, can actually leave us feeling incredibly isolated.
Okay, let's just start with this quote from Turkle's research, because it perfectly captures what we're talking about. You've got Ellen and her grandmother connecting across miles, maybe across generations, in a way that just wasn't possible before. It's amazing. But at the same time, they're each sitting alone in a room, staring at a screen. They're together, but they're also completely separate.
And that right there, that's the core idea Turkle identified. It's that strange, almost dizzying feeling of being in two places at once, isn't it? You're in the real world, but you're also in the digital world. Technology links us to this huge, sprawling network, but in the process, it can yank our attention away from the person sitting right across the table from us.
All right, so first up, let's really dig into what this state of being alone together actually looks and feels like in our everyday lives.
So Turkle has a name for this state, alone together. And it's not just about, being a little distracted. It's a whole new way of being. We're physically there, but our minds are somewhere else entirely, lost in our own little digital bubbles. We're at dinner with our friends, but we're also kind of with our online followers. We're at a meeting, but we're really just clearing out our inbox. Present, but absent.
And look, this isn't some rare thing happening to a few people. It's everywhere. Turkle's research shows how this alone together thing is just woven into the fabric of our lives now. We see it all the time, right? Parents in the park, physically pushing a stroller, but mentally a million miles away in their email. Families sitting around the same dinner table, but each in their own world, texting. It's become totally normal.
Okay, so here's the kicker. If we're all feeling this digital isolation, why on earth are we turning even more to technology and, get this, specifically to robots for a sense of companionship? This brings us to what Turkle calls the robotic moment.
This story from Turkle's research, wow, it really gets to the heart of it. This student, she wasn't really joking. She was just done. Done with the demands, the unpredictability of human connection. A robot, she figured, could give her all the good stuff, the feeling of being cared for, without any of the messy, complicated, and risky business that comes with a real relationship.
And this is the key, right? We're drawn to robots because they offer this fantasy of a perfect relationship. We want all the affection without the arguments. We want reliability without the risk of being let down. We want to be taken care of without having to be vulnerable in return. Robots offer us relationships that we are in complete control of. So let me tell you about Miriam. She was 72 years old, living in a nursing home, and her story really helps us understand this whole robotic companionship thing. She found a lot of comfort talking to a therapeutic robot, a little seal named Pero. She told it all the stories of her life, her joys, her sorrows, everything.
And boom, that is the heart of the robotic moment. Miriam felt heard, she felt cared for, but Paro, the machine, it didn't understand a single word. It's like we're so starved for connection that we're starting to accept the performance of empathy as if it's the real deal. We're settling for an illusion.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. How does all of this shape us as we're growing up? Especially for adolescents who are growing up constantly, and I mean constantly, connected to their parents and their friends. So, traditionally, psychologists had this idea of the adolescent moratorium. Think of it like a timeout. It was this crucial period where you could step away from your parents, kind of like Huck Finn on his raft, to just figure out who you are, make mistakes, try on different identities, all without constant supervision. But today, yeah, that whole idea is pretty much out the window. Roman's quote here says it all. There's this compulsion to be always on, always available. Young people are tethered by their phones, to their parents who can check in 24/7, and to their social networks that demand their constant attention. There's no escape down the river anymore. They are never truly alone.
And this has huge consequences for how we build our sense of self. Instead of developing a strong, inner-directed core, knowing who you are on the inside, kids are developing what Turkle calls an other-directed self. You're always looking to others for validation, for likes, for comments, just to know that you're okay. And that makes being alone, truly alone, feel like a crisis.
And this pressure to perform, it's not just a teen thing. We all do it. We all carefully curate our lives online, managing our profiles, crafting the perfect post, and choosing exactly how we want to connect with people. So, why do so many people hate the phone? I mean, really hate talking on the phone. Well, think about it. It's live, it's spontaneous, there are no do-overs, no backspace key. And for a generation that grew up being able to edit every single word, that lack of control can feel like way too much pressure.
So what's happening is we're basically moving down this ladder of communication. We're migrating from the messy, high-stakes, vulnerable world of talking face-to-face down to the highly curated, low-risk world of texting. We're giving up real, raw authenticity for perfect control.
So, what's the big deal? What do we actually lose when we make that trade? Well, Turkle's work shows us the human cost. We lose nuance, we lose spontaneity, we lose the real intimacy of genuine connection. It's stories like Randy's, a guy who found out his own sister got engaged through a mass email. That's what gets lost.
All right, so where does all this leave us? It sounds kind of bleak, right? But here's the thing. Turkle isn't saying smash your phones or that technology is evil. Not at all. Instead, she's calling for us to be more intentional, more deliberate about how we use it.
She brings up Thoreau to get us to ask ourselves a really big question. Are we living deliberately with our technology, or are we just letting it happen to us? Are we actually choosing a life of connection, or are we just reacting to the endless scroll of notifications and resigning ourselves to a life of constant distraction?
The way forward, Turkle suggests, is to create what she calls sacred spaces. And these aren't about escaping technology completely. It's about consciously setting aside places and times where we can practice solitude, deep reflection, and just uninterrupted human connection. It could be as simple as making the dinner table a device-free zone. It's about drawing a line to protect the things that matter most.
So, as we wrap this up, the big ideas from Turkle's work are pretty clear. We're living in this paradox of being alone together, always on, but often disconnected from the people right in front of us. When we feel that loneliness, we're tempted by this illusion of a no-risk relationship with robots. But the solution isn't to ditch our tech, it's to become its master, by deliberately creating these sacred spaces for real, messy, beautiful human connection. And that leaves us with the final big question Turkle wants us to ask ourselves. Immersed in all this simulation, where do we really live, and what are we really living for?